Karibuni sana to our conversation today, family of Loresho Community Church, as well as all of you who are tuning in to our recording this evening. We are looking at an important topic, forming the faith of the next generation. This is part of Digging Deeper, a series that seeks to deepen our faith in areas that are critical in our lives, and the one we are looking at in this time is family. And today especially, how do we ensure that the next generations are safe? And that brings us to the issue of my guests today. I am joined by these two wonderful people that you can see here, and I will just ask each of them to introduce themselves and why are they interested in this conversation. Starting with
ladies first.
Ladies first, men
yes,
before.
Yes.
Good, great. It's a great honor to be here, to just be talking about children. It's something that really touches my heart. If you want to lift my spirits, talk about children. If you want to crush them, just do something terrible to the children. So my name is Esther Mwaura, married to one husband and gifted with a clan. I keep saying mine is a clan, 4 children. I have more children than both my mother and my mother-in-law. And I love it that way. And I've worked with children all my years. Since I was in class 7 as a brigade, I supported with children's ministry through my high school, campus, in my young adult, and now in my old age, still loving the children. Pastor? Reverend, sorry? Yes.
Pastor, Reverend, whichever. Yeah, it's a very important topic because we have a hope for tomorrow. We need to think about the next generation. And being a father, because I'm a father of, you see, 4?
Yes.
I'm going to 5 now. And,
Well done.
I'm excited about that, but I really wonder how much it will turn out to be. And I purpose to work with them and mentor them to be something the next when they grow up. And I think for every parent and every adult, we have a responsibility to impact the next generation. Not just to sit and wait to see what it turn out to, but to deliberately do something to make them be what God wanted them to be. Yeah.
so helpful, and I think that really draws us to an interesting point of our conversation, which is, as we begin, is to think through, we've titled it Forming the Faith of the Next Generations, and I think I'm happy to be joined by my two conversation partners, and my name is Kevin Mulevi. I serve as a youth pastor at PCA Loresho Community Church, and I've been working with young people as well, both in the church and in the in NGOs for the past around 10 years, and so I'm happy to be having this conversation with us today because it's an important conversation. Now, when we talk about the next generations, we are really thinking about the children that Esther is passionate about, and also the youth. Of course, we are here as parents in different capacities, but also, so when we think about children, because as parents it's critical, but also the youth generally, because we keep saying, I see this, no matter what we do for our children, even as parents, if the environment they're in is not healthy for them, it will not be healthy. And so at the end of the day, the responsibility also lies to us beyond our own children, to the other children that they interact with, to the other young people they interact with, and equipping them to be able to do that. So when we talk about next gens, we talk about children and youth. Of course, youth is a broad category. Here in PCA, especially, we have it's 0 to 35, and there are some churches where you find the youth, the people who are called youth, are in their 40s. Wow. So that's not what we are looking at today. Is not that whole band of age 0 to 35. We are looking at 0 to 18, so children and teens specifically. So some of the issues that affect children and teenagers are close to our hearts. What are some of the developmental issues that are critical for a parent in 21st century Kenya to be aware of? What are some developmental issues?
Okay, for me, one of the things that really hurts me is when we treat children as though they are lesser human beings. I'm sure you pastors, you've heard that said, where a pastor will say, They started by being a children's pastor, then they became a youth pastor, then they became a senior pastor. And I get very saddened by that graduation because it means then that the children are not important. So you start from where it is not important for you to be promoted, and it hurts. But if we treated these children the way the Bible requires us to do, would be very, very helpful to the children and the generation that we want to see come after us. And one of the scripture that really encourages me, the first part of Judges chapter 2, verse 7, it says, Joshua lived and led the people of Israel to the ways of the Lord. And the generation that followed also followed in that way. And as long as he lived, the people knew the Lord. Then the leaders who were there after he died also continued passing the same to the children, or rather the generations that were behind them. And for me, when I think of the generations behind them, I'm thinking of the children, the youth. But a sad statement is recorded in Judges chapter 2, verse 10, that after that generation had gone, Joshua, the people behind him, after that generation had gone, there came a generation that did not know the Lord. And for me, what I see, it's because they did not pass it to their children. When I try to use simple human thinking, it's because it was not passed on to the children. And my prayer as a Christian, as a church, is that we will not just know the Lord for ourselves, but we will pass on the Lord to our children, we will impress it on them, and by God's grace, they should impress it on their children, so that with generations that come after them, they would know the Lord. And so, Percy, you asked a question about the developmental challenges that children have, and one of them for me, the biggest, is that discrimination, being looked down upon because they are children. Sometimes we've even insulted each other by calling them, stop behaving like a child. And I'm thinking, what should a child be behaving like that it's even become an insult, telling someone stop behaving like a child? So that discrimination. And then the other challenge I have seen is our generation is very busy and engrossed in work. We have really delegated the raising of our children to others, to the teacher in school, to the nanny at home. You come, even right here in church, we quickly take our children to kids' church and forget. If they follow us to the main church, you're like, you're coming to disturb me. This is my me time. We take being in church as my me time. So I want to dump the children somewhere in a class where Teacher Esther will be, or Pastor Kevin, because we don't want to raise them up. If we could be more available to our children, that would be very, very helpful to them. And they don't need much. They just want our presence, for us to just be there for them. Not our money, not our buying them gadgets or bribing them with, holidays, as it were, but just being there for them. Yes.
Presence.
Yes, presence.
So I think that's rather helpful. Rev, is there anything you want to add? We are thinking of either children or children, maybe from a psychological perspective, even. What are some issues that are happening in their lives? Because I think Esther raises an important point. We fail to pass on the faith to the next generation. And I think partly sometimes it's a misunderstanding of who they are or what stage of life they're in. I don't know if you have something in mind in terms of that.
Yeah, it's quite sad that we have squandered our responsibilities as parents. And sometimes we are busy looking for money and things of this life to sustain our children, and we forget the most important thing, that is nurturing children. And that's why some of them get lost along the way. And if you're talking about children and teenagers, I think we need to start with the children because they're still in the formative age. And that's when we can actually mold them to become what God has wanted them to be, or what we want them to be, and as early as their children. And apart from the children, because she mentioned a few issues about children, we also have the issue of teenagers. This is the age called the age of storm, when they're experiencing all manner of changes, be it biological, emotional, and even physical changes in their bodies. And they have issues with their identity. They don't know who they are. They are in a transition period between childhood and adulthood. And they need parents and people to actually be there to answer questions honestly and help them to understand who they are. And that can be very confusing. Others also, I call them freedom fighters because they are fighting for freedom. They have the picture of what life could be or should be, but which is away from the reality. Idealistic. And they fight with that, and it can be very confusing for them. Some of them also go through relationship issues. They want to identify their peers, and sometimes the peer pressure will drive them away and to do things that are not healthy. And this can be a big thing. And for parents, we should actually at this age think on how we can become a peer to them. And maybe try to address them in their language, listen to them, and also help them to understand who they are and actually what this freedom they are looking for means. Of course, the issue of sexuality comes in. They're struggling and they're in some crisis because of the sexuality. Some of them also have issues because their body they look, and some are because at this age with a lot of eating of a lot of things, and the self-image can be affected, can affect the sexuality, and they don't know how to rate. And I think those are developmental issues that we need to take care of as parents, as a church, and address them so that they're able to transition very well and be able to be mature people who are responsible that can be handed over the baton to the next generation. We need to do it now. Yeah, thank you.
And you know, as you speak, Rev, on those issues, it's reminding me of a story I once heard from a young person. They were sharing, a story actually I heard from another youth worker, and they were talking and saying how a young person spoke to them about this issue of being present, especially when they're going through this, storms and stress, as some of the psychologists say. And they were saying they called this youth worker, and it was what they were reporting. Actually, my cousin is here and they have abused me. And then the youth worker asked them, what, and where is your parent? Then the young person was like, just put on your TV, you see where my parent is. Actually, my parent is a very successful person on television, being given an award, a recognition by the state.
Yes.
But, in that place of honor and in that place of celebration, the young person is in a place of pain and in a place of confusion. And so I think you have helped us to see the emotional, the intellectual, the cognitive, as the teenagers especially are developing their own thinking, they want to own their own faith, they're having many questions, and also you have helped us to see that it is important for us to then address these developmental issues. And then it brings me then to another point about our Christian faith. What might it have to say on the question of identity, the question of affirmation for children? I think that's a very big thing. Because sometimes I think how this is usually our perspective to say young people. I work primarily with young people. I'll give you another thing. We see young people, the way they dress, the way they conduct themselves, and immediately we judge them that they are not like us adults. Yet, as we have said, they're in a unique stage. And then sometimes they say, I don't know if it's amnesia that we have forgotten even as you are once, right? And we don't exercise the same patience to them. But the point is, we don't go to look at these deeper issues, so that we don't ask ourselves, when someone is talking like this or dressing like this, when we go beneath what we are seeing, what are some of these issues that you're speaking about? Right? What are some of those issues and how can we address them? So that rather than looking at our children and young people from the perspective of the world, these people have come to destroy my freedom. I am a busy person. I need to be making money for them. How does the Bible speak about children and about young people? So that then, as Christians, as Christian parents, especially as Christian adults, even as neighbors, we may not have children, but we are neighbors and there are young people around us. What does the Bible say to us about children?
Maybe I can take it up. One of the scriptures that I found very interesting as I was just searching the Lord on this whole topic is Zechariah. I don't know how you pronounce it, depending with whether you went to primary or group of schools. Zechariah, whichever. But it's spelled with a Z-E. So chapter 8, verse 5, a very interesting scripture, which says, the city streets will be filled with boys and girls playing there. And what came to mind is, these are happy children. I mean, but when children are playing, you see joy. Okay, at least for me who loves children, when you see them playing, you know they are happy. They are happy to have come from different houses and they'll come. And for children, it doesn't matter whether they are understanding each other, speaking different dialects, they will play together. And these streets will be filled with boys and girls playing there. And I think what happens, we are not able to transition this happy child into a happy teenager. All of a sudden, we have a teenager who is moody, teenager who is feeling not welcomed. And I don't think we blame it on hormones, maybe partly true, but it's because of also many things that these children may have been carrying. Then now it comes to a point everything is possibly crashing down at the point they're turning into teens and into young adults. And one of the things that I could say as a parent, I have a teenager at home, 15. One of our sons is turning 15 and the other one 13. One of the things that we did on purpose, we decided our children are not going to be attended to by a nanny at night. They wake up, they're crying, they need whatever it is, diaper change, I will do it or my husband will do it. We decided these are our children, we created them, we are going to handle what they came with. We will manage them. And it makes me sad when I see as mothers coming from, what do they call it, the labor ward, and you bring your child straight to their own room. For me, I feel like they start feeling rejected from that point, because by the time they are crying themselves to sleep, maybe they're even choking and possibly it's the nanny attending to them, not their mother. They already feel like they are not welcome by these people who made them. But when you nurture them, you bring them close, like physically close to you, to your body. That time you're embracing them, cuddling them, they feel wanted. Because when you talk to people, even those in remands or convicted with crime, they always feel like they were never wanted in this world. But from a point of nurturing them, from when you bring them into this world and they feel welcome, they will try and avoid those things that would make them be in trouble. And so these boys and girls who are playing in Zechariah, they are children who feel welcome, who feel loved. And the other scripture that I found interesting was Luke chapter 10, verse 21, where it says that the Lord has hidden wisdom from the wise and the learned, but he has revealed it to the little children. That's Luke chapter 10, verse 21. And for me, it tells me that God has such a special plan, such a special thing for the children, that he has revealed it. He has revealed such deep secrets of himself to the children. It says, for this is what you were pleased to do. This is what God was pleased to do. And so if we, the parents, we, the older people working with the children, the pastors, the teachers like us, the community, would look at these children as important people, then we'll be able to pass that on to them. I don't know whether I've really responded to what you were saying. Yeah, but that's for me is what I feel. And so for you, the younger parents, be close to your children. Just that cuddling them. Unaenda kwa kitanda mnalala, you can sneak out when they have slept. It really gives them that assurance that I matter to these people. Yes.
I think one of the best things for me right now, I have a 2-year-old that
Yes.
will be turning to Noah.
Yes.
And we are joking here that he'll be building an ark, and I'll be inviting you to the ark that Noah built.
Yes.
But one of the best things actually is to watch him at the end of the day.
Yes.
And I think that, for these 2 years, I think that has allowed us to bond in a
Yes.
special way.
Yes. Yes.
Do you want to add anything on the biblical perspective on the children, youth?
Yeah, I think the scriptures speak also powerful. And again, I'll read another scripture that from the mouth of babes.
Yeah.
Yes.
He has a very praise.
Yes.
So they have a part in the kingdom of God.
Yeah.
And as parents also, we must take children as a gift from God. It's a word. And he has given them to us to raise them up on his behalf. And so we have a responsibility to take care of our children. And I think right from the time they are born, they can sense love or rejection. And that contributes to their development in the later stages. So I these are primary role, not delegating to other people. Yeah, and so this is the next generation, and if we have to pass on the baton, we must be ready to work on them and help them to grow, training them up. The Bible says, train them a child in the way they should grow, and when they are old, they are not going to depart from it. I like a philosophy from the Catholic Church. One of the orders, they say that, give me a child, I don't know at what age, and I'll give you back when they are 10, and for good, for the keeps. Because from that formative stage, they are able to be molded and to become. And later on, they're not likely to change to be anything else. So we have a responsibility. Yes.
Yeah, I think one of the things that really encourages me in my parenting, I think as I look at scripture, is a promise that God, and especially as Presbyterians, we say, God is a God of covenant, and He's a God who has said He'll be a God to us and to our children. And I think that is such an encouragement that we are called to parent with confidence because God has a plan for our children. Because sometimes the narrative can be, these children, and this youth of this day.
Actually, I like the way we do it during baptism. And one of the way we defend baptism of children is that they are part of the kingdom of God. We are called together with our children. If you go alone, God will ask you where your child. And sometimes even in rural areas, I see parents busy in church serving God, but they keep on delegating work to their children on Sunday. You give them work and leave them at home, and there you are in church. Praising God. You feel like you're proud because you're the chairman of this or that. But God will still ask you the question. It's a very embarrassing question. Who is a child? Because they are part and parcel of the kingdom.
And that right there, Rev, speaks to how they're neglecting and not seeing them as part of the kingdom and even of the church. So that we have, our churches are full of adults sometimes, or even the emphasis we give. Children are just sometimes occupied, and young people as well in the church occupy a room in the corner of the church, right? But in the Bible, from we've seen that God also has a mission with people. There are very many young people in the Bible, both the Old Testament and the New Testament, who God has raised up even within the context of the church. And so I think it calls us as the community of faith to really see our children.
The church is realizing this. Even of later, I think the church has changed some policies. Like in Presbyterian Church, we don't dedicate a new church building without facilities for youth, children.
Wow, that's
because
beautiful.
I've seen in churches where they do a very nice building, but the kids have no place to
worship.
And we seem like they are to us. I've seen even people coming and telling children to rise from their seats. See, they don't matter. But I think we are getting there where we recognize that they are part and parcel of this the community of faith. But they're most important because they form the next generation. If we have a future, we have to nurture them. We have to take care of them. If you lose them, we don't have a future church. So it's very, very important that we focus on the children.
Sure. Maybe just to add, I like what Loresho Community is doing, that we've even, you have a person specific for the children, a children's minister, a youth minister. It helps them now focus on the nurturing of these children and getting deeper into ensuring that this ministry is empowered. The teachers are trained, which is very good. Back in the village, I don't think children's workers were trained on how to handle children. It's anyone, mama fulani ndio ako free leo, ama ndio amechelewa kanisa, so they hide in the by going into the children's ministry to support. But I like that we are equipping the children ministers.
Sure. And actually today I was just from a fellowship of youth pastors in the church. We gather to encourage them, and then certainly I think the church is doing a good. Now, as we draw to the end, I want us to speak on one more question. Now, I think we've mentioned some challenges. I don't know if there's any. I think we mentioned them. So, how would then parents and adults address those challenges from a place of faith? So we talked about, for example, a question of, I think we mentioned about affirmation for children. Maybe you can add on, but I think Reverend Seleke wanted to say something. I'm thinking about questions of identity. The young person who is still confused about who they are. They've not owned their faith, they're not sure. Maybe they're wrestling with self-esteem, body issues, that's a big one.
I think as parents, and the first reaction I find for parents is they get annoyed when they see some of these behaviors, and they judge these children and they speak harshly to them. And just spoke to one of my sisters and was talking about this child, and I told her, no, you should not have done that, because you first have to understand where they're coming from. So it's actually the Bible says do not provoke your children to anger. So the first thing is to be friends to your children, whether they're teenagers or young children. If you are friends, if they identify with you, they open up to you, and then you can speak to their lives. So I think the most important thing is becoming a friend to them. And you know, like teenagers, they have a lot of allegiance to their peers, their friends. So if you fall apart, they will give you the secrets. And even when you feel like you're shocked, don't show it. You can laugh about it. Yeah, compose yourself and get to know more about it. You're able to inculcate whatever values you want to do in your children. Also affirming them and help they are fearfully and wonderfully created. Don't compare your children with anybody. Like you talk about that child is doing very well and these are the marks they're bringing. Every child is unique. I think the CBC has come to tell us that they don't have to perform like any other child. To appreciate your child for who they are, don't compare them with, and just accept them just as they are, and affirm them as you guide them to make the right choices. Yes.
I like the point Rev raised of not comparing children. I have twins who are identical, very identical. But their strengths are different, both in class and even personality. One is a starter, the other one follows. The other one has OCD like the mother, very calculates her moves. Like you said, it's not right to compare children. They all are to be treated as such. And also it's not right for parents to favor one over the other, because then we create and encourage sibling rivalry without knowing it.
Yeah, that's very key.
Yeah.
I also think about modeling, because one way of passing our faith to our children, the next generation, is modeling faith. We don't tell them to do what we say and not what we do, but we do what we want them to do. We talk about the issue of alcohol. Can't tell your children not to take alcohol until they're cooking or going house. We need to model our faith. We need to allow our children to see that which we want them to be in us. And I think that to me is a very powerful way of passing the baton. They can see it from us, they can emulate us, and we can tell them and affirm that this is the right thing to do.
You know, I remember actually, now that you speak about modeling, we had a parent seminar here in the church, and I asked the people, you know, the parents there, I mean, there was a speaker who asked them, what is something you remember from your childhood that has formed your faith? And almost all of them talked about how their father or mother would pray with them. It was very practical things that they do. They did about the faith.
Okay.
That now they have realized have formed them and even have influenced how they parent. And I found that to be quite a strong point on the modeling. And I think that there are so many things we have picked up as well from the things that our parents did. You know, I remember, for example, how my father would discipline me when I was young, and you know, he used to say if we've done something wrong, he would read the Bible for us. You see, the Bible says, you know, spare the rod. You see, the Bible has said this. What did you do? It's a negotiation. So at least for my father, it was always clear. I knew when something was wrong. It was clear why also it was wrong.
Yeah.
Of course, my mother sometimes was on the other side. You find something has been thrown on you or something like that. But I love my mom is good and she's been a prayer warrior, and I'm here because of them. But those sorts of things, I think, speak to that point of we pick up that strong things that are caught in as much as they are taught, but catching them, modeling them, those sorts of things. And I think one of our speakers had said the other day that even research has shown that if you want to pass our values, the best way to do that is through modeling. So
it's interesting you raised the same point I had. One of the challenges our children are facing is that mentors are increasingly becoming rare. We don't have mentors. Growing up, we had aunties, uncles who would, talk to you about anything. about life, and they would even bring a very strong point. As you just talking, it didn't have to be your mother, father only, but now with this kind of socialization we've adopted, where it's my children, me, my, I, don't touch my children, you can't be sufficient. Yeah, I need them to interact with Percy and pick something as a mentor, interact with Rev, talk to a younger girl like Anne, for me, I'm old age, so I won't do makeup, but as they're doing their makeup, she can drive a point about faith, even as they're relating. So we're increasingly lacking mentors in our community. So we need to do something about that.
And I think one of the powerful things and actually tools that we have in the church is that we are a network, we are a community of faith. And that's why there are so many people around us, especially in the church, and we can play a key role, not just in the church but also at home in terms of, I'm not just concerned about Noah, but I'm concerned about Noah's friends.
Yes.
The other day, some children came up to speak, Jessica, my wife, was out there, and they had a very interesting conversation, even they began sharing about why they stopped going to church. But when you see that kind of conversation with somebody else's child, is a helpful conversation when we are able to engage not just our children, but also the children and youth, their peers. Because we say that young people do not grow up in the clouds, they are here in the world and they are influenced also by their environment. Our role also as parents, as church leaders, is really to provide an environment where they can accomplish their purposes. So I think before I release these good friends of mine, I'd like them to share a parting shot. A parting shot is that parting shot, it is even that word. You just say it and it's like a take home, it stays with you. I'll begin with Esther, something to close us off.
Yeah. My parting shot will be raise your children well, discipline them in the ways of the Lord, and be their friend. Be their friend. I was just sharing with my friends here and telling them that our older son, who is 15 years old, was asking whether he's normal because he's still talking to his parents. And we told him, you're first our friend, then our son. If we didn't have you as our son, you're the kind of friend we would be looking for. So be friends to your children. It doesn't cost much. It's not rocket science. It's just being physically there. You go to the kitchen, do dishes together, laundry together, cook together. And in the process, your children will tell you something. They'll tell you something that is not sitting pretty or something that is not sitting pretty with their friends, and you'll be able to reach to them. Thank you.
Thank you. My parting shot has to do with just encouraging parents, and not just parents but adults, to know that they are being observed. So we must be mentors, as we've been told. And one of the ways is to be honest with our children. Just be honest with them. Some of them will ask questions of which they know the answers. They'll just want to see whether you are honest with them. Just be honest with your children and walk with them. Remember, I think it's Psalms 127 verse 4. They're described as arrows in one's hand, in the hands of a warrior. So if we want to aim at the future, we must really model. We must pass the baton. We must take time to nurture our children and usher them to the next generation, because they will make the change. So may the Lord help us to do that.
Great, and for me, I would also just speak. I'm not lost to the fact that maybe there could be some young people watching, and I found this verse to be a very helpful verse as we think about our lives as young people. 1 Timothy 4:12. Don't let anyone look down on you because you are young, but set an example for the believers in speech, in life, in love, in faith, and in purity. Even for the freedom fighters that Rev is speaking, I think the best way to be a freedom fighter is to set an example this way, because God has a mission for the children, for the young people, and for the adults. He is a God for us and to our children. Thank you for tuning in this evening. My name is Kevin. Again, I've been hosting and I've been joined by Reverend Jero, our minister here, and Esther, a good friend of us, and we are so grateful. May you be blessed this evening, you and your families. Asanteni sana.
Thank you.